All right, folks, welcome to another edition of Best Song from Each Album.
Hmm.
And today, look who I've got here on a Tuesday.
Who? Who's here? Me.
Turn
Oh, I'm here.
Turntable Tuesday with Thom. It's here for once.
Yeah, that's right.
And
Lots of turntable talk today.
it's a lot of tea talk
Hmm.
because we are doing Mr. Todd Rundgren album by album best track on each of the studio releases, including the covers albums. Going to be a great time here. So let's get right into the segment here. If you want to start us off with everything here.
All right, we'll start out with the very first album, which is just called Runt. And the term runt comes from when Todd was in high school. He was called Todd Rundgren. So it's ironic because he's very tall. So the term runt, you think small, but he's really not small. But this was his first record after being in a group called the Nas, which was out of Philadelphia. And it's the history of the album is there's actually three different versions of it. There was a one that was put out that I don't know, for some reason they didn't like the song order, so that's kind of a rare mispress. There's the one that's widely available that's been kicking around for years, and then there was a third one version that nobody really knew about, a different song order with some of the songs that were put into a medley in full form, which is kind of cool. And that came out, I don't know, 2 years ago. So I have all three on vinyl, of course, and CD. And I got Todd on everything. I got Todd 8 tracks. It's just pathetic. But let's go through the songs. So, which song do I think is the best song on this particular record? Wow, that's a great question. I love the medley. I'm going to go with that. It's song three on side two. It's actually a handful of songs. Baby Let's Swing, Last Thing You Said, and Don't Tie My Hands. Again, some of those songs are in longer form on a couple of different presses, but I love the way it kind of all flows together. We Got to Get You Woman was the big single on this particular song. I love Devil's Bite gets a honorable mention, and songs that I've seen performed live on this record, which I'll do for every record because I've seen Todd a lot, is Broke Down and Busted. And as I remember that was on the Individuals tour back in like 1995. He was doing that one. And then We Got to Get You a Woman was one that was done a little bit later on in when he was doing the book tour and kind of a greatest hits and some orchestra shows is when he broke it out. But he avoided performing that live for many years. So there you go. Runt.
All right. Well, for Brunt, I actually have the second song on the album, which turns out to be the shortest time-wise, Believe in Me.
Mm.
Yeah, that song seemed to stick with me better. I don't know because it was really short. I don't know. I didn't even realize it was that short to tell you the truth, but he's got a good mixture on this album. Like you said, the medley, that's the longest song on the album, other than Birthday Carol. Um, Believe in Me, though, is the one that sticks in for me, so that's what I picked here.
All right, so now we're on to number two, which is the Ballad of Todd Rundgren, the second album under the Runt moniker. And actually, Jerry Sheff appears on this record, which is interesting. Jerry was the bass player for a lot of people, a session musician. He worked with Elvis Presley, was kind of his claim to fame. But his son, Jason Sheff, went to perform with Todd later on. Jason, of course, from the band Chicago, now doing solo stuff, but was with Todd on some Beatles tributes. Oh, my favorite song on this, there's no question about it, is Boat on the Charles. I absolutely adore that song. The first time I heard it, it just was amazing. I remember seeing the Charles River going to Boston one time to see a Todd show. And I don't know, I just love that song a lot. Songs on this particular album that I have seen performed live would include the Ballad of Denny and Jean, which he did on a solo acoustic tour in the 80s or early 90s. And saw him perform the song Bleeding on what was called the Todd Rundgren's Johnson tour. So those are the only ones that I'm aware of. I know he's done Parole in recent years, but never at a show that I've seen him.
All right, so for me, I have this one I picked Wailing Wall.
Ooh, good call. Oh, and that's one I've seen perform live because he did that with an orchestra. It's a good call, Joey.
Right. Yeah, that one definitely stood out for me the best. But I will say, honorable mention will go to Long Flowing Robe, the album's opener there. I like that one. That one was
Yep.
it was a toss up between the two of them, but I went towards Wailing Wall just a little bit more. Overall, I think I like it a little bit better than the first album. Not sure why. Is there a reason why he kind of kept the runt in there? Do you know? Do you ever hear a story by that?
I believe, if I remember correctly, Runt was kind of an attempt at like a band name. Like I think Runt was considered, the group Tin Machine, which was David Bowie, Hunt, and Tony Sales. Soupy Sales' his two sons. I think Runt was supposed to be like the Sales brothers and Todd, and he was going to kind of turn that into like a band type thing, almost like later on he does Utopia as a band. But that's the only reason that I know they would use Runt for the first two.
All right, very good.
All right, well here's the big one. SA something anything question mark. What the heck? I've seen a lot of songs on this particular record performed live. My favorite one, oh boy. Well, I hate to say this because it's one of the few songs on this record that Todd didn't even write and actually was covered by Guns N' Roses. Can you believe it? A Todd Rundgren song from Something Anything covered by Guns N' Roses. And it also has the same name as a famous song by Kansas, but it's a different song. And that song is Dust in the Wind. It was written by Mark Moogie Klingman. And I was able to see Todd perform it with Moogie Klingman on one of the last two shows that Moogie Klingman performed before he passed away. How many of these songs have I seen live? Well, let's take a look here. I've seen Dust in the Wind, as I mentioned. Hello, It's Me, of course, the big hit, originally a Nas song. We recorded. I've seen that live. I've seen Couldn't I Just Tell You, which is a kind of a concert staple. Black Mariah is another one that is a
Mhm.
concert staple that he still performs. He used to do Song of the Viking as a solo piano piece, which was always a concert highlight when he did his solo shows. And I say solo. I went to the Mirror. He did that on the Todd Rundgren's Johnson tour. Saw the Light. He still plays that all the time. Wouldn't have made any difference. I've seen, and there you go. So lots of songs.
Mhm.
One of those records, Todd has performed some of the records coming up in their entirety. So I've seen all those songs. He's never done this record from beginning to end, and even though he hasn't, he's done a huge chunk of this, performed it live, and there are live recordings out there of a lot of the songs from Something Anything.
All right, so this is the album where I actually came into the Todd Rundgren fray here,
Ooh.
and that was with the song that I'm picking here. Can't deny the song. I know he sometimes likes to rush through it and play it really sloppy, let's put it that way, and kind of kills the overall vibe because I guess I don't know what he has against the song or something. But it was a huge hit, obviously. I Saw the Light. That was the song. Heard it on the radio one day, and mother rushed me right out and got me the single, the 45, and the rest was history. And that's the song I got here. Backed with Marlene, by the way, on my single. Interesting.
Yep.
And Black Maria, yeah, I think I seen that one live myself.
Yeah,
You ever
you
see?
probably seen a good chunk of these live.
Yeah. You ever see Slut?
Oh yes, yes. Look at this. You got me again, Joey.
No, I was just curious because that was another song that really stood out on here.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
obviously, Hello, It's Me. I've seen every show he's played pretty much in some capacity. So, yep, that's what I got for this one.
All right, awesome. Well, this next one's easy to say which song I've seen perform live because he did the whole record, and I saw four shows of the whole record. But man, I don't know. This is a very difficult one for me in terms of picking the favorite song. Now, Just One Victory was a staple of Utopia shows and Todd shows. It was a great closer. It's a very iconic song. Man, how do you not pick that one as your favorite one on this? I guess I'll still consider that really my favorite live song, my favorite Utopia song, whatever. But in terms of the of actual an actual song on here that I really really love and really resonated with me. It was one of the first songs I ever heard, the version on Back to the Bars, that I just fell in love with, and that sometimes I don't know what to feel. And one of these days, I've interviewed Todd, I think 6 or 7 times, and I've always wanted to ask him, and for some reason I forget. There's a line in the song about where he talks about a man crushed his little dog under his wheel, like ran over one of his pets, and I always wondered if that was a true story. But if it is, it's sad. But either way, I just think it's one of those great songs, and I really love it.
All right, very good. Well, I got no choice. I'll pick just one victory. Definitely, probably the only song that I really knew off the album, because I came, this is one of those albums I never really had until I got the box set. And it's a very, were there any other songs they played off the radio at all on this one?
No, this album has a very interesting story in that something anything was a commercial success and went gold. It's still to date his top selling solo album, and he felt like he was getting kind of hemmed in, and he was going to be like the male, you know, Carole King or whatever, and he didn't want to be that. He wanted to kind of expand and do something a little bit more experimental. So I think in many ways he made this album less accessible and experimented more with the sounds and early loops and all that kind of stuff. So in many ways it's very groundbreaking and kind of holds up well, but it really is an album, and it's kind of a listening experience where you got to listen to it beginning to end. It's a little bit harder to pull chunks out of it. There's no true. If I was a record executive, I'd be like, "Hey, there's no single on this." you know,
Yeah.
that's what you used to hear back in the '70s from the record execs.
And that's exactly the way I was looking at it too, because like the only
Yeah,
song I've ever seen off of here was just one victory, but great song nonetheless. That
yeah.
that definitely is my choice for this one here.
All right, another one I've seen the whole album beginning to end perform live. It's called Todd. Wow, what an amazing name, just Todd. Never had a record called Rundgren, which is interesting. But this follows along. This is kind of like the little sister to Wizard of True Star, is the way I look at it. You had Boston and Don't Look Back. You got Van Halen 1, Van Halen 2. Sometimes these records sort of complement each other and they're an extension, and that's kind of the way I looked at this particular record. Again, seeing the whole thing perform live, so I don't have to go through the individual songs. I don't know. This is a tough one. I really love the song "Is That Love," but it's only a minute 55. I'm a fan of Heavy Metal Kids, but really, I guess if it's got to come down to it, the song that's a live concert staple. In fact, his son Rex Rundgren told me that his favorite Todd Rundgren song is a song off this record, and that is "The Last Ride," which is just an absolutely beautiful song.
All right. Well, I have for my choice on this one, and I think you know.
I know what.
Second song on the album, I think you know.
All right. And he does that. Yeah, he did that this last tour. As a matter of fact, I believe it was an opener. It's been an opener on a few of his tours, so it's a great song.
Yeah, definitely like that one. And I'd say honorable mention. I say The Last Ride. It's definitely up there as well for me as well.
Yeah, the guitar work on that is just absolutely amazing. So here we go. We get off to Initiation. This is really where he starts to form kind of the four-piece utopia. This has got Todd, Moogie, Ralph Schuckett, but he's got Roger Powell on here. This is actually more the Todd Rundgren's Utopia group that's on this particular record. I don't know. A lot of great songs. I've seen Real Man, Born to Synthesize, Death of Rock and Roll. I've seen, oh yeah, I guess I've seen everything on side one except for Initiation, and part of Treatise of a Cosmic Fire was used as an intro for the Individualist, A True Star tour. So seen a lot of this record performed live, as well as my favorite song, which I didn't get to see until that tour, the Individualist, A True Star tour, which was the song Fair Warning. Just a great song. And next one I believe is coming up is going to be Faithful. And I always kind of like to look at the side one of Faithful and or side two of Faithful and side one of Initiation as one album. I think that would have been a perfect Todd album. Side two, I hate to use the term throwaway, but it's it's just this kind of long instrumental type stuff, which I don't really listen to all that often.
Well, I'm going to echo your choice here and go with Fair Warning. Yep, that was definitely the one that stood out the best for me. I really love it. It's a long song, so I really enjoyed the whole thing. How did it go over live?
Oh, it was incredible. Huge fan favorite. He had before that he'd only played it like in 1975 when the album came out, and with Todd Rundgren's Utopia. So it was a real surprise when it came out on the book tour. So I was and he played it really well. It's just a great song.
Nice. All right. It looks like we're going now to 1976.
Yeah, it's amazing. A lot of these Bearsville records, boy, he really has gotten a lot of mileage out of them in terms of concerts and whatnot. Here's another one. A lot of songs that have wound up in his live catalog over the years, mostly from side two. Side one, all songs from, do you know what year, Joey?
Must be the 60s.
It is actually the year of my birth, 1966. And that was the year that Todd graduated from high school, which is why he picked the year 1966 and these songs. And that's why they're all on side one.
Hmm.
And very faithful recreations of them. He was working in the studio, so I think he kind of wanted to see what he could do in terms of recreating what they had done in the studio. Some of those are pretty iconic. The Good Vibrations sounds almost exactly like the original. Strawberry Fields Forever, all songs that, again, in the studio, there was a lot of stuff that was pretty innovative for its time. Side two, though, man, that's where the great stuff is. I have seen Love of the Common Man performed in various incarnations, solo acoustic, full band, partially a cappella. Cliches, another one that he performs live a lot, solo acoustic. The Verb to Love, I was able to see that with the orchestra shows. Just a beautiful song. And Boogie's Hamburger Hell was one that he did on the Johnson tour. And Black and White has shown up on occasion in shows as well, some of the more guitar based tours. So I've seen everything but When I Pray. And he used to do When I Pray in concert and bring fans up on stage and bang drums and everything like that. And that song was eventually replaced in his show by the song Bang the Drum, where he did kind of the same thing. So I've seen every song on side two except for When I Pray. My favorite of all these, oh man, gosh, this is like having 4 or 5 kids and saying, Dad, which one of us is my favorite? I got to lean towards the Verb to Love. I just think the message in that song is pretty intense. When I first really started listening to Todd was Back to the Bars, and the version on that is pretty incredible. I was going through some heartbreak at the time, so when you have that soundtrack of your lives, so that song has a lot of real deep personal meaning to me, and so that's why it's the one that I pick on this particular record. And this is the album. I said last album Initiation, but really it's Faithful, where you see the 4-piece Utopia form. This has 3 out of 4. We got Willie Wilcox on drums, Roger Powell on keyboards, and Todd Rundgren. And then John Siegler was playing bass, and he gets replaced by none other than our friend Mr. Chasm Sultan. Pretty amazing
Hmm.
guy, as you know.
Yep. Well, for this album, I went with Cliche. So that was the one that, I mean, I've seen Love of the Common Man, obviously. I think I might have seen Black and White too live. I can't remember, but pretty sure. But Cliche is definitely my favorite on this album. Interesting how he actually did Rain on here on the side one there, because if we remember, Ringo Starr calls that his favorite Beatles song.
Yeah.
And of course, Todd played with Ringo in the All-Star Band.
For many years, Todd actually played
Yep.
more years with Ringo than Paul McCartney did, which is kind of funny. I think because he did more years touring with the one incarnation of the All Star Band. Plus, Todd had been in 2 previous ones. So when you combine that, he was actually touring with them. He actually toured with Todd Rundgren longer than he toured with his Beatles bandmates, which is pretty incredible if you think about it. Beatles did a lot in a very short time.
Oh yeah, they sure did. Okay, it looks like we are going take a little trip to the Hermit of Mink Hollow, 1978.
Yeah, well, Mink Hollow is the name of the street that Todd lived on in Woodstock, New York. Had a chance to visit that a couple of years ago, which was pretty cool. We did a key to the city of Woodstock, and I got to rename Mink Hollow Road Minkma Hollow Road. I've actually got a street sign over here from the street renaming, and then we gave him the key to Woodstock. He was an important part of Woodstock. Of course, that's where the band resided. Bob Dylan, a lot of Steely Dan, a lot of people came from that area, but he lived on Mink Hollow Road, and that's where his studio was. And that's where he recorded a lot of stuff. Cheap Trick recorded there, Meatloaf recorded part of the album there, Bat Out of Hell there. But yeah, so that's why it's called The Hermit of Mink Hollow. He plays all the instruments on this, writes everything. There's the easy side and the difficult side. If you have the vinyl record, you notice on the back that the song order is different than it is on the album. And I said to Todd one day outside a hotel when he was walking in, I said, "Hey, I got one question for you, Todd. Do you know why the back of the album has a different song order than the album itself?" And this is what he said to me. I'm gonna do it. He goes, uh, "I think they printed the album jackets before we gave them the song." Now that may or may not be the true story. Again, very accessible record to me. This is almost like the long awaited follow up to Something Anything in terms of accessibility and just pop sensibility. Great songs on here. Big hit is "Can We Still Be Friends?" Most likely written about his past woman whose name will remain unmentioned because we don't want to get in trouble. But yes, great songs. I've seen all the children sing "Can We Still Be Friends," "Hurting for You," "Too Far Gone," "Onomatopoeia," "Determination." All aside one I've seen perform live. Again, he's never done the record beginning to end, but he's performed a lot of it. I've seen "Bag Lady," "You Cried Wolf," "Lucky Guy," "Out of Control," and "Fade Away" was a concert closer. So the only ones I haven't seen is looks like it's "Bread" and "You Cried Wolf," which is a shame because "You Cried Wolf" was a song he played with Utopia and a little bit before I started seeing Utopia. So it's not one that he hasn't performed. He's performed pretty much every song on this record. I think he's performed every song on this record live at some point. My favorite one, it's got to be "Lucky Guy." It's
Mm.
the back in 1995 he did a version of it with Jesse Gress. It was just Jesse Gress on guitar and Todd on vocals, and the song just was incredible. And it was the final song of the evening. It was so moving. Every time I hear this version, I think of that version. The message that is in that song is absolutely incredible. I just love that song, and I love this album. This really is a fantastic record.
All right. Well, I am going with the song that I knew I would probably pick, how you look at the album before you even make your decision, but then I listened to it. I kind of did that. Go, well, I'm going to go with this song more than likely, but listen to the whole album again to give it one more chance, just to make sure nothing else. And I went right straight to Bread. Just
Mm,
love that song. A
yeah.
classic Rundgren song, underrated. Definitely, I think it should be. I don't know if he ever plays that one much live, but that's one that would have loved us. Would have loved to seen live for sure.
No, and I said he broke out "Bag Lady" when he was doing the shows with full
Hmm.
orchestras. That and "Wailing Wall," which songs are that really lended themselves very well to symphony orchestra backing. But Bread, there was a couple of 45s that were put out as a promo. One of the few vinyls I really don't have. I haven't really chased this one, and now you're going to make me want to run on Discogs to try to find it. But it was called "Rundgren Comes Alive," because it came out around the same time as "Frampton Comes Alive,"
Hmm.
and it's just a bunch of different live versions, and he happened to do it on that particular release. So I probably have it. I've got a stack of Rundgren live rarities box sets. I'm sure I'm sure it's in one of them over here. If I start pulling them, everything's going to fall over. But yeah, I've never seen it perform live, but it's a great song.
Yeah, definitely. So it looks like it takes them a while to make another solo album, and then that's, I'm guessing, because of Utopia, right?
Yeah, well, plus they put out, speaking of Rundgren Comes Alive, I mean, Frampton Comes Alive comes out in 1977. And what do record executives do? They go, hey, this guy, Peter Frampton, he was kicking around for 7 or 8 years and putting out these great songs. We never really had that one great album until he made this double live record. So everybody, let's all make double live records. So that's when Todd did Back to the Bars. And really the intent was to kind of have the same sort of momentum as a Frampton Comes Alive showcase, the catalog, and then maybe get a hit out of it. And really, Back to the Bars to me is an amazing live record. I mean, I absolutely love it. I played it to death when I was in, oh man, when I was a young man, 17 years old. And but it obviously didn't sell as well commercially as Frampton Comes Alive, or we Todd would be doing a little bit different. But I think Todd is happy with where he's at in terms of his career. But yeah, that would be the reason. And then yeah, through that time, Utopia was kind of, Utopia had a very interesting trajectory because they were both on the Bearsville label, and Todd used Utopia as his backing band. But while they tried to kind of coexist as an entity on their own,
Hmm.
and I think at times maneuvering that might have caused some difficulty and maybe, for lack of a better term, brand confusion. People couldn't figure out, the record label, from what I understand and things that I've read from the time, the record label wanted Todd. They wanted the Todd records. They didn't want the Utopia records. They wanted the Todd records. And almost going back to what we were talking about with Hunt and Tony Sales, Tin Machine. Now, I don't know how familiar you are with Tin Machine, but I'm sure that the record label would rather have David Bowie solo records than a bunch of Tin Machine records, because
Hmm.
David Bowie was the known brand. And it was the same with, Todd Rundgren. The Todd Rundgren as a solo artist had the commercial success. So Utopia became a little bit harder. I was actually, and still consider myself a Utopia fan first, and then Todd fan secondarily. Um, but, somebody out there is going, what? Yeah, it's true. But yeah, so that was going on. And again, Back to the Bars featured those four guys in Utopia on two out of the four sides. So, you know. But I believe Todd was invested in Utopia and wanted to see it succeed, but there were forces kind of going against it.
All right, so that takes us to Healing.
Yeah, fascinating record. My good friend Susie, if she ever watches this,
Hmm.
but you probably won't. But if you do, Susie, I love you. One of my favorite early Todd fans, and she really loved this record. I had a hard time with it first I heard it, because when I was a young man and kind of a rocker, I was like, oh man, this album's too mellow. But as I got older, I really learned to appreciate it. But fun fact, my very first ever favorite Todd song is indeed on this record, so it will be forever important to me. And that is, of course, the song Time Heals. Now, is that my favorite one on the record? Well, I can kind of get away with not picking it because it was included as a bonus track. The album itself ends with the three-part Healing on side two, and the early copies, and I think CDs probably just put it all on one disc, if I remember correctly. But you get a little 45 that had Time Heals and Tiny Demon, so technically not a part of the actual proper album. So I've seen this entire record performed from beginning to end. One of the most incredible album shows that I've ever seen in many ways. Musically, it was superior to the Wizard of Two Star live presentation and to the Todd album presentations, which were both excellent visually, but musically, this one was just incredible. I can't pick one. I got to pick two on here, and that's both Compassion and Shine. I'm going to give it a tie, and at best I can do is flip a coin and pick one of those. But those are just incredible songs.
Well, for me, I have the album kickoff track there, Healer. That's the one that stood out for me the most. Yeah, this album's definitely different. Compassion was definitely another one that I thought was, up there as an honorable mention for sure.
Yeah, side two is all the rhythm is actually the rhythm of a heartbeat. So if you listen to it, healing side two, that's a that'll make you hear it a little bit differently.
Hmm.
And Todd appeared on Saturday Night Live, performed a couple of songs. Rick Derringer was his guitarist in his backing band, and as was no, I'm sorry, it wasn't Rick Derringer. It was Pat Travers of the Pat Travers Band that
Hmm.
was the backing guitarist in his SNL band, and he did the song Healer, and he did the song Time Heals. And the other musical guest, which was, I believe, the first time they had two musical guests on an SNL episode. Any idea who it is?
Mm-mm.
Prince.
Oh wow.
Yep. So when I got to interview Todd once, I said, "Did you meet Prince?" And he said, "Nope." didn't even get a chance. So it's an interesting story. We don't really have time for it. And the song Time Heals, by the way, one of the first 10 videos
Hmm.
that was played on MTV. So another part of historical importance there.
Nice. All right, and that takes us to 1982 and the ever popular Tortured Artist Effect.
Ah, yes, an album. Some people don't like this record, which I don't know why. I really like it. It was the last one for Bearsville, and this created a problem that we'll talk about when we get to the next record, which is a cappella. But
Hmm.
man, some great songs on here. Of course, the hit, so to speak, "Bang the Drum All Day," which I don't think charted all that high, but became sports anthem. It was used in a couple of commercials. One was for a cruise ship line, and the other one was for I think Seven Up used it. So very cool stuff. I've seen most of this record perform live. I haven't seen "Don't Hurt Yourself, There Goes Your Baby." Oh man, Influenza shows up later on with a twist, and he performed that. Tin Soldier is, of course, a cover, and that was originally done by Humble Pie. And the song Drive, interesting song Drive, because I think it's the only song in Todd's catalog that he's performed two songs named Drive live
Hmm.
over the years. And of course, we know this song is the one on this record. Do you know the other one and why?
Oh, of course, when he was in the new cars.
That's right, when he was in the New Cars. And Chasm Sultan usually handled the lead vocal duties, but once Chasm had to go off on tour with Meatloaf, Todd took over and he was able to sing a couple of versions of the song as well. So he's done both. My favorite, it's Hideaway, man. It's just such a great song, great opening track for a record. Yeah, just I love the way it sounds. I love the way it's produced. That's it for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's this one. I love the version of Tin Soldier. Great cover there. But I went with the old traditional standard. Nothing like banging on the drum all day. I just love that song. One of those ones that I just never get sick of it, no matter
Yeah.
how many times I hear it. An interesting note about that was that it reached only number 63. But the most interesting note about it, that's his last ever single to chart on the Billboard charts.
Wow.
The main ones, yeah.
Well, top 100 did
Yeah.
so something to fall back on didn't chart, huh? What a shame.
Nope.
That's such a strong song.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised. I didn't realize that was his
Yeah.
last single to hit the charts. The main top 100, like you said.
Hmm.
Very interesting. And the last official release on Bearsville, like you said. So the
Yep.
last for everything there.
Yeah, so Bearsville, Bearsville kind of held him hostage, and he owed him one more record, and he delivers a cappella. Bearsville refuses to release it. They say it's not
Oh,
accessible, not commercial enough. It gets leaked. Everyone in the Todd fan community, I remember very well at the time, we all wound up getting a cassette copy of it. They even pressed a vinyl copy of it. I have it over here. Um, that was a bootleg as well. So this album was kicking around well before it was actually released. Everything is done with vocals. He used a Fairlight CMI, I believe, is the tool that he used. He would, kind of sing through the microphone and create the rhythm tracks. A lot of looping, things like that. Some of these sounds show up later on the No World Order record as well. I love this record. They had I believe it was an 11 voice orchestra backing him for the original tour of the album. And it was just an amazing, amazing presentation of the music. There's still some commercial live recordings of it from radio broadcasts and stuff. But yeah, something you definitely want to hear in the live presentation. I've seen the entire record performed live with the exception of Miracle in the Bazaar and Lockjaw. In recent years, he's done honest work.
Mm.
He's, Johnny Jingo was done over multiple tours. Something to fall back on to me. There's a live version, live from Chicago, where he does it with the full band. I think it really shows what potential that would have had as just a traditional kind of pop song if he had recorded it originally with the band. But I still love the original arrangement. I still think it's great and very catchy. But my favorite song on this record will always be the one that makes me depressed, but in a beautiful way, pretending to care. Yes, today I am your chariot horse, tomorrow I'm your albatross. I mean, the lyrics alone, I'm pretending to care, are so poetic, so amazing. So, yes.
Yeah, this album, man, this was a tough one for me at first. And then I actually asked you about this record when we were about a week or so ago.
Yep.
And I went back and looked at our rankings, and I saw I had it ranked up there pretty high, and yours was number one. I said, "Holy moly, he's got this one at number one!" The biggest Todd Rundgren fan that I know. So I must be missing out on something with this album if he's got it at number one, and I got it like way at like I don't even remember what number it was. It was like my fifth from the end or something like that. But anyhow, you mentioned a track, and I listened to it. I said, "Oh wow, yeah, this track is awesome." I couldn't believe we're talking about something to fall back on. That took
Yeah.
me by storm, and boom, right then and there. That's I made my choice. It wasn't hard after trying to. It was pretty rough trying to listen to side one there. I must say. I do say the album got better as side two came on, in my estimation. So that's what I got.
It's a headphones record. I really believe
Hmm.
that. I could say that because I remember hearing it for the first time with headphones because I
Hmm.
would have had a bootleg cassette, and at that time I just had, I had a Walkman. I mean, that's what we listened to. We listened to cassettes. I mean, I remember buying commercial cassettes, even more so than albums. So it was just an incredible experience to listen to it through cassette. But I also think, and I think we've discussed this on other shows,
Hmm.
a lot of your listening experience is influenced by the live experience. So if you see there's been records that I've seen performed almost in their entirety before they come out. And then when
Hmm.
the album does finally come out, I really love the album because it brings me back to the live experience. So I had the double blessing of, it was cool to be able to hear an album a year before it came out commercially. Makes you feel special. Then I got to see it perform live first night of the tour. That was pretty incredible. I was actually for the a cappella show at the show where Liv Tyler met and realized that Steven Tyler was her father. That was in some books and everything. And I actually shared that story with Liv when I saw her, but that's for another day. So a lot of sentimental reasons behind that record, but I don't know. To me, it's just very inventive. Lyrically, it was really strong. It's got a unique backstory. There's a lot of things to love about it. And when he opened the show, he did the song "Born to Synthesize" from Initiation, and he had that mask on over the top of his head to open the show. So that was pretty cool.
All right, so we're jumping ahead 4 years here already to
Yeah.
Nearly Human, 1989. Tell us about that album.
Well, so Todd hooks up with this young lady while he's out on the road with the Tubes and this woman Michelle Gray. She's one of the dancers. Turns out to eventually become his the mother of one of his kids, and then now, of course, her name is Michelle Rundgren. But she was very important with regard to the development of this particular record. It's also kind of influenced by place, and I believe I have talked to Todd about this because Todd had these different phases through his career. He was associated with Woodstock, New York, started at Philly. Then he gets
Hmm.
associated with the Woodstock music scene. Then he moves to San Francisco, and this is during his San Francisco phase. And they get all these San Francisco musicians. They kind of go into a studio. They do it live. To me, this is an extension of Something Anything Side 4, which is what they did in New York and Los Angeles. They gathered some musicians. They just played a bunch of songs. They did them live. Bam. There they are. That version of Hello, It's Me that's on the side, that's on side 4 of Something Anything. The magic there is that it was just a recording session where they re-recorded the original version of Hello, It's Me, which is kind of a dirge if you've ever heard it. It's a lot slower than the Todd version, the Nas version is. So I don't know. I love this record. It sonically, it's one of the best sounding Todd records. The musicianship on it is amazing. The tour was phenomenal. Yeah. Favorite song on this particular record, man, I could pick 4 or 5.
Yeah.
I'm always going to go back to "Can't Stop Running." It's just a great song. It's not Todd on lead guitar. It's a guy named Lyle Workman, who I believe is out with Sarah McLachlan now. Played with Sting for a while, but yeah, just a great song. Lyrically, I think "Parallel Lines" is probably the strongest song on here. He performed that live before this record came out. He did it solo piano. There's a version on a song or a show called Night Music with David Johansen that's out there. I like the stripped down versions that also appears on Up Against It. But yeah, that song "Can't Stop Running" to me is just a heck of a song.
Yeah, interesting note on this album. I just noticed here that he had the duo on here playing on some tracks here. We're talking about Bourgeois Tag,
Yeah,
Larry
he
Tag and
yeah
Brent Bourgeois.
yeah they Brent didn't tour with him, but Larry did. Larry Tag
Hmm.
did, and Lyle Workman was with Bourgeois Tag, and he's on there as well. Because yeah, that's that San Francisco connection. He had
Hmm.
produced that record Yo Yo, so you got a lot of those guys on it.
Nice. So, but when I look at the track, there's no denying what I'm picking, and we're talking about The Waiting Game.
Good song.
Love that song. Yep,
Did
definitely
did did that one on Letterman too. So
nice. All right, so that's what we got for that one. And now when we jump ahead here, we are going now from 89 all the way up to 91 only. We only go up 2 years finally. So we
yeah,
got,
so Acapella was that album that was held hostage by Bearsville. So as part of the deal for them to put acapella out, and it would winds up getting put out on Warner Brothers, Todd had to sign a 3 album deal. So the first one was acapella, second one was Nearly Human, and this was the third one. So this is his last record on a major label. What he did for this one, again, San Francisco connection, sets up in a theater, does like these live recording sessions. Some places even list this as a live record, but yeah, I mean that's how he did it. There's no question what my favorite song is here, hands down. But I'll uh, I'll go through the ones that I've seen live. I've seen Change Myself, Love Science, Smell of Money. He performed for years before this record came out. If I Have to Be Alone, Love in Disguise, I've seen Kindness. I've seen Public Servant, Second Wind. So I think the only one I haven't seen is Who's Sorry Now. Well, no, he did that on the tour for the record. So I've actually seen this whole record performed live. Interesting.
oh,
I didn't
nice.
even know it until I looked over the track list. Yeah, because he did a good portion of this on the only one I'm not positive of is Guy His Eyes. I may or may not have seen that one live. But my favorite song on here still shows up in the set list every now and then. Todd wrote about his grandmother. It's just beautiful. It is, of course, kindness. The message is beautiful. The arrangement is beautiful. If you got to be a heartless human being if you can't listen to this song and not be moved by it. Vince Welnick's second record he appeared on. I'm a big Vince fan. Vince goes
Hmm.
on to perform with the Grateful Dead. We've talked about Lyle Workman. Prairie Prince of the Tubes is on here. Roger Powell. You've even got a member of the band Journey playing some drums. Actually, two former members of Journey. Do you know who those were that appear on this?
Randy Jackson, maybe?
Well, that was a good guess. Randy Jackson was on Nearly Human. See,
Ah,
I know way too much about about this stuff.
wow.
Prairie Prince was a former member of
Ah,
Journey, and of course a member of the Tubes as well. Still tours with
mhm.
Todd, and then Ross Valerie, bass player.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Nice. All right. I went with Who's Sorry Now?
It's an
Uh,
interesting choice.
yeah, I really like that one. And I did just see Kindness on the last tour when he came to
Yeah.
Art Park last year. And yeah, I might have seen a couple of these other ones too. Love Science, I believe, right? That would have been one.
Yeah, Love Science. He did. He's definitely done that one a lot.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know if that was on the last tour, but that's one he's done a lot.
Yeah, I don't think it was on the last one, but it was on one of the Riviera
Yeah,
shows, I know for sure.
right.
All right, so that's what we got for that. And now we are gonna jump up to No World Order.
Yeah, no world order. So I've had this conversation with other Todd fans. First time I heard this record, I remember the my first thought was, this is horrible. I can't believe it. Todd is rapping. Oh, my life is over. I didn't like it. Not at all. I've really learned to love this record, which is ironic. I
Oh
think it's
wow.
kind of an electronic version of A Wizard of True Star. I mean, it's got that whole one song kind of songs weaving in and out and tied together. Good chunk of this record has been performed live over the years. One of the few tours that I never got to see. I won't get into it because it has something to do with my ex-wife. And Joey, every
Mm,
time I mention my ex-wife, nothing good comes out of my mouth.
no.
But my favorite song on this one has got to be, of course, I don't know. I mean, there's three or four different versions of Worldwide Empathy, but really, my favorite one is the song, No World Order 1.0, which is kind of a cool song. Let me tell you about the New World Order, not the kind that makes you run for the border. It's a new religion wrapped in a revolution with a prudent solution for your mental pollution. So
Oh
that's
boy.
one that I like. I've seen probably six or seven of these songs performed live. I mean, Fascist Christ is a
Yeah.
worldwide epiphany. Those get played a lot. So there you go.
Yeah, yeah, he just did.
Property. Property's a good one too. So
Yeah, he just did that Fascist Christ one for sure and Worldwide
yeah.
Epiphany both on the last tour.
Yeah.
So that was cool seeing those ones. And yeah, so you just mentioned the one you stole my thunder there. But yep, Property's my favorite song on this album.
Great
Just
song.
seemed to stand out the most. But yeah, this one was a I actually didn't think this was as tough of a listen, obviously, as a cappella. But I thought the setup was pretty unique. Now this is one I believe, if I'm not mistaken, initially it wasn't released commercially at one point, or it came out in a weird way, right?
Yeah, it came out. Boy, see, this one's actually within reach, so I can pull it. So it came
Oh.
out as a CD-ROM.
Mm.
I have an unopened version of the CD-ROM. If you'd like to buy this, please let me know. No, I'm not selling it. So yeah, so with CD-ROM, it had a whole bunch of interactive components to it. You could do different mixes. And it says on here, the first interactive music only CD. So yeah, that's how it came out. And then there's a version of it called No World Order Lite,
Hmm.
Lite, and it just takes the songs and breaks them into individual tracks instead of the one long track. And that's pretty cool too.
Nice.
There you go. Boy, you got a Todd savant here.
Yeah. Well, you being the individualist that you are,
Yeah.
let's take us to 1995, a perfect segue.
Yeah, I got to see this tour in Cleveland. This is back in the days when he didn't used to come through Rochester and Buffalo anymore, which was kind of depressing because when he lived in Woodstock, we'd catch shows in Rochester and Buffalo, but he went a lot of years without doing many shows in this area. He did one tour for No World Order at the old Buffalo Armory, but
Hmm.
individuals tour never came to Western New York. But man, I don't know. I really this was one of those weird albums too that you originally for about the first year that it was out, you could only purchase it as an import.
Hmm.
And we look at that today like import CD. What do? You just go on Amazon or you go on some other place and they'll mail it to you. It's not that big of a deal. But it was, I mean, I remember even like, bands we've talked about like Triumph, the Canadian presses, they weren't all that readily available. I mean, we got them here because we were close to Canada, but Cheap Trick at Budokan, that was an import. But in this case, we couldn't get a hold of it, the Todd fan. So it was really difficult because it was only out in Japan, because the first version, like No World Order, was a CD-ROM that came with some visuals for every one of the songs, and there were some issues with getting the rights to some of the visuals, which delayed its release. So Todd actually went out, toured the record before it was released. There you go. That's why that's important. So I got to see a lot of these songs perform live before I even heard the CD.
Mm-hmm.
I like the CD. I think it's a little high on the treble in terms of the final mix, but song wise, I think they're all fantastic. What's my favorite song? Hands down, no question, without a doubt,
Mm-hmm.
it's Temporary Sanity. I mean, it's one of those songs that still feels very pertinent today with all the craziness that's going on in the world. And I don't know, just a fist bumper of a song. I've seen a good portion of these songs perform live. I mean, probably most. I'm trying to think of any that I definitely have not seen. Yeah, I think I've seen the whole thing live because I'm pretty sure he did the entire record and has still done a good amount of these tracks live, but he did the entire record on that first tour.
All right. For me on this album, if not now, when?
Oh,
Second track on the album. I liked
when?
Espresso too. Espresso is another great song there. There's a couple good ones on here for sure. You're right. It's definitely very listenable album. Definitely one of my favorite Rundgren albums by a mile. It's one I can go back to and listen to over and over again. And it seems like you always find something new on it when you listen to it, which is what I really like about it. So individualist.
Yeah,
And
I
then
agree. Strong one.
yeah. So
So
that was
are we doing With a Twist?
yeah, we're
Oh man.
twisting it, baby. I know this is a weird one.
Yeah. Well, another tour that I never got to see live as well. So he did a tiki lounge tour. He actually would set up a tiki lounge, and there would be people that would be sitting at a tiki bar and everything on stage with him. And he did all these
Hmm.
bossa nova versions of his catalog. And I don't know. I've never really warmed up to this particular record. I've seen him do some bossa nova versions of some songs and whatnot. I think the only one that really kind of works in bossa nova form is Influenza. I Want You is a cover that was originally done by Marvin Gaye, and that's okay too. And but those are really the only two that I kind of listened to on this particular record.
Yeah, for this one, I went with Mated.
A Utopia song, very good.
Yeah. Yeah, that one definitely stood out the best. I mean, there's no way I was gonna be able to pick, I Saw the Light, Hello, It's Me, or Can We Still Be Friends, just because you're so used to those regular versions. I
Right.
just couldn't, I just, and these are totally different from the originals. But Mated, actually, I really enjoyed that one. So that's what I got for that one. And that was 1997. Now we're going to jump to 2000 for One Long Year.
All right. So One Long Year. What's the story behind this? Why is it considered One Long Year? Well,
Hmm.
actually, Todd has relaunched the service and he calls it Global Nation TV. But before then, he had something called Patronet. And that's it's not within my reach, but there's CDs around there. But
Mhm.
basically, it was a subscription music service before there was Napster or any of that stuff. So way too far ahead of its time. But as he was recording different songs, he would send out, a couple, three of them on CDs to members of his members of Patronet and everything. And then eventually, after about a year, kind of put them all together and came out with an album. So it was recorded over more than 1 year. So that's why it's called One Long Year. And
Mhm.
my favorite song on here, I didn't even don't have to think about this for even a millisecond. It's Buffalo Grass, a very divisive song in the Todd fan community. Some people just are sick of it or whatever reason and don't like it. And I think those people are misguided because I never get sick of listening to this song. If he played 20, so just did 20 versions of Buffalo Grass, that's it. I would be perfectly happy.
There's nothing
Um,
like, yeah, nothing like him playing Buffalo Grass in Buffalo, New York.
for
Nothing
sure.
like it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That one outdoor show we saw there that was pretty packed. I mean, that was a pretty cool moment. But we've seen him do Buffalo Grass in Buffalo a bunch of times. But to me, it's like it's kind of a lost Utopia song as well. It just really reminds me of kind of classic mid '80s Utopia, and it's just a great song. I've seen a good portion of this perform live. Hate My Frickin' ISP was a an opener for a while.
Hmm.
When they toured this, he toured it as a trio. It was him, Chasm Sultan, and a drummer named Trey Sabatelli, who sometimes sits in with the Tubes. I've seen Bang the Ukulele done. Where Does Time Go? Love with Common Man's, of course, a remake. That was the Bossa Nova version. Hit Me Like a Train. He just did on this last tour. I haven't
Hmm.
seen Surf Talks or Mary and the Holy Ghost. I believe he did with the orchestra shows. So I've seen a good portion of that record.
And obviously, I agreed with Buffalo Grass. Our choices were
Yeah.
identical.
Yep.
How can it not be? All right, so that it takes care of one long year. Let's go into Liars, 2004. We're moving along here.
Yeah. Another one over the years, I've seen pretty much every song on this record perform live. The original tour, there's a live vinyl of the DVD that was recorded in Albany at the Egg. Wow, I remember when this record came out, all of us Todd fans were like, "Wow, yeah, this is Todd, man. This is a great record. It's phenomenal. It's so many good songs on it. It's got a theme, so it's a concept record. It can be intense, it can be gut-wrenching, it can be a lot of everything. It can rock, I mean, you name it. God Said is one that is sort of kicked around for many years. Um, Flaw, funny song with the swear word in it and all that stuff. And of course, my favorite though will always be Past. I don't know
Wow.
what it is. It's just there's something about unrequited love and thematically. It reminds me of a Twilight Zone episode, actually called Last Stop Willoughby, where the guy's sitting on a commuter train, and there's a section of the song where he's like, get up, you missed, it's your stop, you're on the train. But just that idea of running into a former lover that you haven't seen in decades or whatever, and trying to kind of relive the love that you had for them, if it's a breakup that wasn't necessarily a bad one. It's I don't know. I think there's just a lot of beauty to it. I think Todd's vocal work on it's pretty incredible. So I really love that song.
I just love it when I pick a song from an album that you picked the same song from and it's not a hit. So I got the same. I got passed
Yeah.
on this one. It just because of you being the big fan like you are. So when I pick the song, the same one that you pick, it just tells you how good the song really is if we're both picking the same exact song. A true
Yeah.
fan like you, and here's me who, I'm starting to really come into these albums kind of late, unfortunately. I mean, I know some of them, but I don't know all of them. So, but that one definitely stood right out for me there. And I
Yeah.
agree. I agree on that one. It's definitely one that really takes you back there. So past is what I got and you got, and
Yeah.
we are gonna jump ahead 4 years.
Yeah. I know he starts slowing down. Gets old.
Yep.
Uh, Arena was another record that fans got to see in its entirety. He performed this record. He flogged this one to death. I mean, he
Mm.
toured it for like 3.5, 4 years. Toured it for like a year before it came out. He actually debuted it at the Todd Stock when he was turning 60 years old. I love this record. There's a live version of the full record since he had performed the whole record live. It came out very recently, and I don't know, lots of cool. The concept behind it is evidently he was listening to some arena rock albums like Def Leppard, things like that, and wanted to kind of recreate an arena rock sound. And some cool songs on here. Mountaintop's a fun one. Strike is a cool one. Gun. I mean, a lot of fun stuff. But my favorite song will always be the one that I heard it the first time and said, "Man, if this could come out 20 years ago, it might have been a hit." And again, kind of reminiscent of utopian style, that four piece, and that is the song "Courage," which is just it's just ear candy to this big Todd fan.
Yeah, Ear Candy is how I would describe this album. This is definitely wow. I couldn't believe out of all of his albums, post 1982, obviously this has got to be the most rock album that he's ever came out with. And the first time I heard the first song on this album, that right away said, "Wow, now where was this Todd Rundgren been hiding all this time?" And I'm talking about Mad. That's what I got for my choice, and it just doesn't really let up. I mean, you got Afraid, you got Gun, Courage, like you said. I mean, this album is just, yeah, what a welcome it was for fans who were relishing, a real rock album.
All single word titles as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So
All
we
right, we
got.
going to Todd's Johnson.
Oh, we're going to Todd Rundgren's Johnson, 2011.
So this song or this record, I mean, is all Robert Johnson covers. You know, he did it a more traditional approach than Eric Clapton. It was actually part of a deal. The record label that put out Arena required Todd to put out an album of Robert Johnson covers because they own the rights to the Robert Johnson material. So they were just trying to make a little bit of extra money. So he did tour this particular record. I don't know. I mean, I'm this record's okay. I'm not a huge fan. It's Chasm's on it, which is good. I love Chasm. As far as my favorite song, I probably have to do Last Fair Deal, Gone Down. Maybe with an honorable mention to Sweet Home Chicago, but I think the Blues Brothers does a better version of Sweet Home Chicago.
Yeah, it's definitely I was kind of surprised on how bluesy the album. Todd really, I never expected him to really get that into the blues there. Um, but the song that does it for me was Walking Blues. Nice short 3 minute song. Yeah, and definitely has that distinct sound there that really I like that song. It just really stands out compared to some of the other ones, as far as the blues go. I'm not really a big blues guy myself when it comes to a lot of the modern day blues. I mean, when you're out, I'll tell you this, blues is great when you're out at a club or a place seeing it live. It's totally different than listening to it at home, because you're there, you can feel it, you can see all the emotion, and it's just a whole different experience being seeing live. You said you saw this tour?
Yes, yeah, yeah. In fact, the first time I interviewed Todd was at the trial for this tour, and Todd fans know this, but his first band was called Woody's Truck Stop, and they were a blues band. So that's
Hmm.
kind of the blues connection
Hmm.
for him. So that was one of the first questions that I brought up to him. And I think when I mentioned Woody's Truck Stop, he looked at me like, "Oh yeah, yeah, this guy knows my stuff." But he did almost the whole record, and there's a live commercial recording of the Johnson tour, pretty rocking. Jesse Gress, the late Jesse Gress on guitar, who I mean, just I don't know, he killed it on this material. To be honest with you, I think, and then Todd actually had a guitar um, that he brought out a Telecaster, a yellow Telecaster that he nicknamed Butters. That was pretty cool too. But yeah, no, it was a very very guitar heavy tour. I think he did the song "Bleeding" from Rent the Ballad. He hadn't done that ever before, so very interesting.
Well, speaking of interesting, we're going to stick with 2011, and he had another album that came out called Reproduction.
Yeah, so the deal with this one is that he did one of those fan experiences where people pay, astronomical sums of money, and you go and you can record with Todd. So there's a lot of fans on here. There's people that I know that appeared on a couple of the cuts. But then the concept is that he was recording his own version of songs that he had produced. So he definitely didn't do faithful reproductions. If there's a song that I would look at and go, "Oh my goodness," the version of 2 out of 3 ain't bad. It's okay, but it's a little weird. But like Walk Like a Man, that's another kind of inventive one. The only song I know that I've seen perform live was Primetime. He did that on the State tour, but there's moments on this album I really like that are fun. Best song on the record, man, it kind of has to be "Take It All," the version of the Badfinger song. He does a very kind of
Mm.
traditional take on it, and it's I don't know, it just came out really well. He just really represented the song very well, I thought.
Well, for me, I'm going with the old standard. I can't take it. Cheap Trick. I thought he did a really good job on that one.
Yeah,
you're not gonna match Cheap Trick, but I thought he did pretty good with it.
yeah, and it was a very heavy electronica, so
Hmm. A little different, but if you know the song, he didn't kill it, and which is, you know, that's the main thing is when you're trying to, if you're not going to be a faithful recording of a cover, you definitely want it to be recognizable,
right.
for good sake purposes there. So reproduction was 2011, and then we get 2013's State.
Yeah, very dark record. He toured this one. It's one of those tours where his fans got really upset. Well, his fans got really upset because there wasn't enough hits. And I got to see a couple of shows on this tour, so I've seen this whole album performed live. Favorite song, I will go with Surreality. I think it's a kind of a cool track. I like Todd's vocals on this record. Again, it's very dark. It's not all that accessible. It's one that you gotta be in the right headspace and just sort of put it
Mhm.
on and give it a good listen.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen Party Liquor. I think I've seen that one live. And the song I picked though for my favorite is the lead off track, Imagination.
Well,
Just
you have a good imagination then.
yeah, yeah, that's the one that stood out for me on this one. Ping Me was another one I had as a honorable mention. So that's what we got for State. And then this is where we really get into the later catalog here with 2015 Global.
Yeah, I love this record and a lot of great songs on it. Definitely a kind of semi return to form in terms of accessibility.
Hmm.
Everybody is a song that he's going to be opening with on the upcoming tour. It looks like he's done some shows in Japan. A very fun kind of clappy, good song. Soothe is a wonderful ballad as well. But my favorite song on this particular record is one that features my buddy Chasm Sultan, and that is of course Skyscraper. And again, it always
Hmm.
goes back to my love of Utopia, which is overarching in every way. So whenever I have a song that I feel like either has a utopian connection or something like that, it tends to wind up being pretty high on my list.
Right. So I actually have Soothe, one of the songs you mentioned, as my favorite off that album. I just really enjoy that one. Global, I remember seeing the tour. That's when they came to the town ballroom.
That's right. Yeah.
And that was definitely a quite different. You had the background singers. That was definitely a unique tour, to say the least. But it was a fun tour. I actually enjoyed that one. That was after, I believe, that we saw him at the Bears Den that time. I can't remember the name of that tour, but
Unpredictable.
yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Running Bear. I remember he did a great version of Running
Yeah.
Bear on that one.
Yeah.
All right, so after Global, we're going to White Knight, which came out in 2017.
Yeah, collaboration record in not in studio together, but people would send him tracks. He would take it, he would kind of rework it. Fascinating tour. Love this tour. Had feature again another one where people are like, "Oh, he's not playing the hits," but I thought he just did a great job in terms of the presentation. Kind of the soulful Todd, the rockin' Todd, all that good stuff. It was visually a pretty cool show. As far as the record, I got to talk to the guy that co-wrote this song and told him that, man, I love this song because it used to be my granddaughter's favorite Todd song of all time.
Mm.
and it's a pretty cool song, and that is "Let's Do This," man. Mr. Mo Berg, "Pursuit of Happiness," little Canadian action there. Just again, ear candy, a lot of fun. Everything you love about the Pursuit of Happiness. I mean, Mo Berg, what a great songwriter. Simple songs that just sound fantastic. And he performed most of this particular record live. Buy my tee, he would throw the actual t-shirts out. And I believe this is the only record that features, well, there's two quick trivia questions, and we're running short on time, but uh, I use this as a trivia question. I said there's only one person that appeared aside from Todd Rundgren himself that appeared on both the Todd record and on this record. And I'll give it to you because it's a trick question. It's Joe Satriani, because Joe Satriani was in the audience when they recorded Sons in 1984 on the Todd record, and
Mm.
then he does a collab on this particular record as well. So very cool stuff. But yeah, I like this. I think it's a good little musical journey. Um, I don't know. I don't want to say anything negative, but if I did, I'd say that the Joe Walsh was one I was looking forward to in terms of the collaboration, but I was expecting a little more of a rock song. Not that I don't like the Joe Walsh collaboration per se, but I was
Mm.
thinking it was going to be a rock and Joe Walsh song, but then it turns out to be this kind of weird, more ballady type thing.
And that weird ballady type thing is exactly what I picked as my favorite song on the
Interesting.
album.
Yes.
Well,
I
can't
said
go
it's not a
wrong with
bad
Joe.
song, but you got to
You're right.
admit, like if you're thinking Joe Walsh, you're thinking a little heavier guitar or talk
Yeah.
box, something, and then I'm like, what? That's not what
Yeah,
I
it
expected.
it kind of threw me because what I did the first time, I didn't want to looking who was on the songs. I wanted to just play the album and kind of see what kind of stuck to me after I listened to it.
Yeah.
And when I heard that Joe Walsh one, I didn't know who it was because I didn't even look at the track listing till after I got done listening to the whole thing. Then I went back and looked, and I saw the Daryl Hall one. I played that one back again because I remembered it sounded like him. I knew it was him.
Yep.
That was definitely probably my runner-up. But when I heard that Joe Walsh song a second time, I looked. I go, "That was Joe Walsh." I go, "Wow!" But I like that song. That's the song that stuck to me, and that was "Sleep."
You bring up a great point, though. I mean, when you listen to this one and then subsequent Space Force, if you're familiar with the collaborator,
Hmm.
there are some that it's very forward. Like obviously the Donald Fagen song sounds like a Steely Dan song. The Daryl Hall collab sounds like a Daryl Hall song. So I think that's where it was a little bit of a shock to the system in terms of the Joe Walsh song, because like you said, it doesn't sound like Joe Walsh. So yeah. And the other bit of trivia, Todd's had a mother and son on his records, and that is of course Michelle Rundgren's been on his records, and his son Rebop appears on the White Knight record, which is pretty cool. I got a chance to talk with Todd about that, and that's an interesting little story. But we'll leave it at that because we have finally made it to the end. Last
Yeah,
record, right?
that's record Space Force
Yep.
2022.
Yep. I love this record. I have, when it came out, I've been very blessed that the Todd Rundgren people have sent me advances of records, so I get to review them. I wrote the first review of, I think, from State On. I was the first media person to write and post a review of any of these records. A couple of them, I think, wound up on your site.
Yep.
Um, but this one reminded me of almost like an updated version of the Todd record, in that kind of
Hmm.
sort of, the way it kind of flows. The individual tracks were released, just piecemeal. But man, you put the whole thing together, it really works. It works much better as an album, full album, than it did the individual tracks. I don't know. It's just a fun listen when you do them all together. My favorite song, I don't know. I got a couple that I really love, but at the end of the day, that song "Puzzle," which kicks off this record, I don't know. Thematically, it's just a very cool song. I'm a King Crimson fan, so Adrian Belew, I naturally kind of gravitate towards his sort of kind of creativity, and I just really enjoy that. And then the honorable mention, of course, is going to go to the last cut, which is Eco Warrior Goddess, and
Hmm.
again, kind of going back to that Utopia thing. It sounds to me like that could be a Lost Utopia track.
All right. Any guesses what song I picked here?
STFU with Rick Nielsen, since you did the Cheap Trick, I
No,
Can't Take It. No.
nope.
All
I'm
right,
actually.
you're gonna give me two more guesses since this is the last one. I'll go with we'll say we did the same one. Puzzle.
No,
Eco Warrior Goddess.
no.
Oh well, go ahead. What is it?
You just went down with the ship, buddy.
Ah, yeah. Still, that's one of the ones that's the only song on this record that I've seen performed live.
Me
Amazingly.
too. Me too.
Yeah. 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 He never toured this record, which is kind of a shame. I think it was a missed opportunity because there's some great cuts on it.
Yep. Rivers Cuomo from Weezer.
Yep.
Weird collaboration there. Out of all, you look at all the other names on here, they're mostly, people that have been around since like the 70s,
Yeah, you got
80s.
Narcy and Elfie Templeman. I mean, there's definitely some different
Yeah.
lemon twigs. I mean, it's an interesting set of people.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
All right, so that is our rundown of best Todd Rundgren track on each Todd album here.
yep.
And do you want to carry anything out to close out the show with here? Anything you got coming up on your channel? Any interviews? Anything you want to
If you
share?
want to check out my Substack, I would always appreciate subscribers. Just kind of kicking off there and building it up slowly. I get a lot of reads. I don't have a lot of subscribers. It's kind of maddening. I have like 27 subscribers, and there's articles where I get 2,000
Hmm.
views. So I don't know if they're fear that if they subscribe to the Substack, that I'm going to come to their house, which I will. No, I won't. But yeah, Substack, tuning in with Thom Jennings, THOM. Got a YouTube channel. I got a couple of videos that should be coming up there sometime if I get around to it. I'm never not good with video editing. I should probably ask you off air what you use for video editing because it drives me crazy. But yes, how about you?
Well, that's pretty much about it here. Obviously, we're going to get to see Mr. Rundgren this summer,
Yep,
and it's going to be a good time like always. And can't wait to see. Maybe he'll surprise us with a few things in the set list. Who knows? We'll see what comes, and that show will be at the Riviera, I believe, right?
you got it.
All right. He's always puts on great shows there. Can't. It's always a good place to see a Todd Rundgren show for sure.
I know a guy that's got front row tickets.
Oh, nice. All right, sounds good then. Well, thanks for coming on board and doing this one here, and we'll get together again soon for some other good music related show here and go from there. Signing off.